Hey everybody, this is your boy John, aka Captain Listache here, and on today's episode we're going to be talking about the geeky chat. We're going to be mentioning some things about Blade and a few other topics, but again, stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is your boy John again, and this is going to be an interesting episode, but again, with me is Matt, aka...
Hey, what's up, Mr. Grumpy Beard?
And yes, again, Captain Listache. And yes, now, just before we go on with this geeky chat, I know now it's going to be November time frame. We're going to start with that. And yes, I'm going to participate in something that I have done usually with the military, and I've done with a few other things, but I know Matt's never going to do it, but I'm going to do it because I just feel like doing it. So I'm going to do the no shave November kind of thing. So, basically my face is now clean shaven. Yes. And, it is what it is now. So yes, unfortunately, Captain Listache will, it will come back in time. Okay. And,
Captain No Stash.
No stash. And, he's gonna be like, oh, what, you don't got anything? What, you mean like stubble stash? Like, or little baby chin stash? Like, or whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm working on it, man. Okay. Leave me alone.
Captain Porn Stash.
No, that was Jeff. Get it right. That was Jeff. And no offense, Jeff. I got some words for you, but I'm not going to say it right now. But, no, like, it is what it is. I know it's more for the cancer awareness and, just unfortunately with, suicide and everything else, goes along with it. But, I want to do it. I know Matt will never do it because he's like, I'm just too man.
Well, no offense, but I am not shaving my beard just to grow a beard. So.
And why not, man? I mean, that's what you do. You've done it. I mean, you've clearly done it for years. So.
My beard's already growing, so I'm not going to shave it to regrow it.
Well, that's the whole point of it, man. You think it's dumb.
I understand the cause, and I think it's dumb to just shave it off to grow back.
Well, that's your fine.
I'm just not going to do it.
I know you'll never do it.
I will participate in growing it because I'm growing it now.
You keep growing it, and then you shave some of it off, but you barely do that. It's like once every blue moon. It's more like every 5 years you're like, I'm just going to shave it off a little bit. Or you might trim it, occasionally, depending. But anyways, yes, so we're going to start with this. We've been mentioning this is now the second time, but the fist bump. Okay. So we're going to say, again, follow us, interacting with us, subscribing, telling your friends all about the podcast. And, do you see what I did there, Matt? That whole thing with the fist bump,
Oh, you're copying me from
I don't know. I'm just mentioning what you've mentioned before. I mean,
if you are new here, you can give us that fist bump, and that's just kind of our silly little crazy acronym. That's basically just following us, interacting, subscribing, and telling your friends, just like John said. And we got something that starts today, John.
Yeah, and we've been mentioning this already a few times, or this now the third time. But yes, we're going to be doing a contest, right? So the biggest thing that we've already mentioned before, and again, whoever, who hasn't listened before, basically what we're doing is that we're making you guys kind of reach out, liking, post and, basically commenting on stuff and just basically interacting with us. So that way, the whole point of it is that if you do all this and you get certain points and that, whoever the winner of that week is, right, you can message us and say, hey, this is how many points that I have. We'll say, okay, cool. We'll look at, see who the winners are, like who has the highest of that particular week. And we'll say, okay, yes, you're the winner. We'll send you basically like a cool little sticker pack. Some of them might have, different themes. Like I know there's a couple Office themes, like the show, The Office, and there's like Marvel. There's like a few other ones I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's
a majority of the stickers are they're a variety of just different memes. I guess you could call them. They're just kind of like different memes. Some of my own Beavis and Butthead stickers are in there.
Of course, it had to be Beavis and Butthead. But
some of the Marvel stickers that we have on our water bottles, like,
yes,
they're in there, and a couple of our very own logo stickers are in there.
Yeah,
plus a couple of the packs, there might be a little extra thing in there.
Then who knows? Maybe you'll have to find out if you finally win something. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, just again, it gets you guys to kind of
just engaging with us, being interactive, and just being active. With us, and it's, you don't have to do it every single day. It's not like we're, like we said last week, we're not going to have like a 75 question exam at the end of the week, or
no, that's what Matt wanted to do.
We're not going to have you do like some kind of a,
essay of why you like us,
an essay on why you listen to the podcast. No, basically, like if you go on Facebook on Monday and you see our post, you can easily just click the stupid like button, click the share button, and if you click the little, text box and give a poop emoji, you have 3 points right there.
Yeah.
And that would probably take you less than 5 seconds to do all that. And if you did nothing else.
That's right. If you did nothing else, I mean,
the rest of the week, like you have 3 points for that week, and you might be the top winner.
You're right. You might be the top winner.
Who knows?
But the other thing is too is that with the whole month of November, right? It's not even just like I was mentioning the whole no shave November. No, it was more about the the grateful, like the giving back kind of piece to this, because we love the fact that we've been doing this now for. God, I mean, it's been over a year and a half now, and we're almost, we're talking November is, February. So we're almost at 2 years, of doing the podcast that Matt literally was like, hey, man, we're going to do it. And I'm like,
it's like 3 months, 3 months shy of 2 years. Yeah.
Right. And it's crazy. We've been doing this for this long, we want to give back. And, again, we know we're not like the big time, like, I'm going to say it, Matt, your favorite people, like the Kelsey brothers, having their like podcast show, or like, so like Joe Rogan or, something like that. But like, we're trying to get there. We're trying to,
Gronk and, what the fuck is the guy?
Edelman?
Name? Edelman. Yeah. They have a podcast.
I thought it was just Edelman. I didn't think Gronk was a part of it. I think
it's Edelman and Gronk, and because I hear it on my way to work, because I have Rock 101 on all the time. They have a podcast it's called Dudes on Dudes.
What? Dudes on Dudes? Like that's a weird name.
They basically just talk about football players, and I get like what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, but
it's more like the stories behind the scenes of like a lot of the.
It's like, welcome to Dudes doing. Dudes on Dudes.
Dudes doing. Yeah. No. You're right. I mean, it's kind of stupid and funny, but I mean, for us, it's like we kind of give you the. I don't know. I guess we kind of just more educate you on certain things and more just kind of like talk about our passions and like, kind of dive into other things that maybe sometimes, I know Matt knows a lot and I'm not saying that I don't, but like there are just some things that I educate myself on from him. And then there's things that, maybe he learns a couple things.
I think it just comes down to like, we have a desire to want to connect with people who are listening to us, and, not just having you guys listen and be completely disconnected from you. And this is a way like we can kind of give you, give something back to you, as well as having the opportunity to, interact with you on a different level, so that, we can, you can comment on a post and then we can comment back and have like more of a dialogue and create more of a back and forth type of relationship with the people who are listening to our show.
Right. And, I know Matt and I agree that, we have different types of people, all walks of life, probably, out of our, 7 people, right? Usually. No, I'm joking, but, like
there's probably more. And, who knows, we, in November, we're doing this contest right now, but, I would like to do these contests more frequently. Like the next time it might be, it might be t-shirts. It might be, other things that we might give away.
Right. And but that's the thing. So like we want you guys to realize that this is just step one, right? So like we're just starting this out, but we want to see if we have more participation, we have more people doing it, then yeah, we'll start to do this, because then hopefully the whole point is like we generate the buzz. We generate that, that kind of sense of like, I guess belonging in a sense of like,
we
hey,
can only grow together.
Exactly. And that's what we've been saying. Like, we make the jokes, we do, because, I know some people don't like it, but I'm like, hey, you know what? There's the thing. It's the reality. We understand the reality point of where we're at. So we're just trying to make fun of it to hopefully maybe get you guys to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe help us out. We'll help you guys out, in certain other ways. But anyways, I know we got some interesting, kind of topics that we want to talk about here, but like, especially Blade.
Blade, And we're not so much talking about the character of Blade, but we are talking about the very complicated movie that they've been trying to make.
Since I believe before COVID, which was, I think it was 2019 when they were like originally talking about this or something around.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, talk about failure on so many levels. Like, problem after problem, script after script. They fired. I don't even think you can count how many writers they fired.
Well, writers and I believe the directors.
There were at least 2 directors.
Yeah. So the writers are definitely, because they've had to.
I think they've had like 7 or 8 that they've let go.
And then again, with the directors basically not really being let go, but more like leaving the project because of all the complications.
And honestly, like I seriously doubt with and. What we're talking about right now is, if you don't know already, the Blade movie that was supposed to come out in November, I believe, of 25, has been delayed indefinitely now.
Right. And so like Matt and I, we've talked about this because, we mentioned in one of the previous episodes recently, Blade was a very forefront, character. And especially, how Marvel right now, without that character, was never going to exist. Because if they didn't produce something at that time. So the fact that they couldn't even, get on agreeance on, how the movie should be made, how the writing should be, the actor basically at this point saying, you know what, I don't even know if I want to play the goddamn character because he's just at a loss at this point because like literally it's like, I kind of feel bad for him because
I don't even think that with it being delayed indefinitely, I don't even think they can keep the actors involved in this project moving forward.
Like Mahershala Ali, like granted, like I fully believe
you would have to walk away. Like you'd have to be like, I'm not doing this movie. Like forget it. Like
or call me when you decide on when the fuck you want to do this because at this point he's like, I've just got other things I got to do.
If I was him, like I literally would just cut my losses and be like, you know what, like I'm not going to sit here and put off other projects.
Oh no! I mean,
sit here and wait for.
I agree with you. I think at this point he should just be like, listen, you call me whenever the fuck you want to get this going, but like I'm going to do my own thing,
right?
And that's what I would have done. Now, granted, I still think that yes, he could be a really great Blade. I think he could do a really good job. It sucks for him because now he's kind of being strung. You remember that commercial? I think it was a Geico commercial. He's like. It was the old guy. He was in a fisherman's outfit, and he is like throwing the dollar bill. Yeah. It's the same shit that he's doing right now because it's like you're pulling me along for so long, and now what do I do?
And I think like Blade is too beloved as a character for them to have like a movie fail at the box office, and that's kind of like when they initially were planning like the movie. Like it really sounded like initially Blade wasn't even the main character of the movie, and they were almost planning to like move away from Blade as a character in the MCU to the female version, which probably would have been like his daughter. I'm assuming.
But the problem is with that, you haven't established the character, which we've already mentioned before, is like, so you can't pull that shit. You can't pull that card. Oh, well, we're going to do a female. No, fuck you. No offense. You can't pull that shit because at this point, Blade is a male, okay? And Blade needs to be established well before you can even throw in the whole daughter card and all this other crap.
Right.
You can't do that. There's no reason to do that. And so on top of that...
You have to at least have a full movie with him and the daughter together.
Right. And to show...
I mean, but Blade has to be like the single main character in the movie. Like, you have to have it there. And...
He's the protagonist, plain and simple.
I look at, and it's funny because like I was thinking about this the other day when I saw this like news story, pop up on X, and I watching Deadpool and Wolverine.
I know exactly what you're going to go with, but go ahead.
I mean, my question is more for you than everybody else because they can't answer me. But the line that Wesley Snipes said in Deadpool and Wolverine, was there's only one blade. There'll only ever be one blade. Do you think that was actually like kind of a curse?
I do, because at this point it's like, Wesley, no offense, buddy, you never should have said that line, because now you're right. Unfortunately, unless you want to play the character.
I mean, legit, he was right in that moment. Like,
no, in that moment he was right, but
I don't think like Wesley Snipes, like, I don't know if he improv'd the line or if the line like was like a Ryan Reynolds thing, like it was written in the script and that's what he was supposed to say.
I think it was actually honestly improv. I think he made it as a joke, and then like they just kept it in the scene and whatnot. I don't think it was written. Because,
I mean, I would happen to think like Ryan Reynolds would have thrown it in there because like they did dig at Marvel and Disney.
They always
on a lot of different things in that movie, but
yeah,
I honestly would almost think like it could leave room, and I'm only going to say this because of Wesley Snipes being Blade. But I think it could leave room for him to possibly negotiate his return to the character.
I mean, you could, and I think you could.
But I think him being like as old as he is right now,
it's tough. It's very tough. I mean,
would it truly be in Marvel's best interest to give it to Wesley Snipes?
I will say this, if Wesley Snipes did a Blade movie when Marvel was originally starting, like at the time, like in 2008, give or take, and then, like kind of build his character a little bit, and then maybe did the daughter thing that we were talking about, that would have made more sense. Or at least because then you could have brought him in, you could have dived in a little bit more, whatever. I think
if you have him in right now,
he's a little too old.
He has to turn it over to somebody long term.
Right. And Mahershala Ali was the perfect candidate.
He might be in one movie,
right,
or he might make cameos in other movies, but Wesley Snipes is not going to be a Blade character in a trilogy or multiple sequels. So you're really looking at somebody who's going to Ali probably could have done it had they had
no bullshit in between, but
no bullshit, but like right now, like it's denied indefinitely. So I mean, it's Blades right now completely off the table, and you're looking at a character he was supposed to be in multiple movies. Like he was supposed to be in the Avengers movies. He was supposed to be in a lot of these movies coming up.
Right. And so like that's the other big problem is that, when you have movies like I know that's kind of a little off topic, but like Venom: The Last Dance, right? That just, recently just came out and stuff like that. I mean, you have a movie that, we were all kind of excited for because you were thinking that, this would be on the same level as, Deadpool, versus Wolverine, in that sense. And it's like, Deadpool and Wolverine, not versus, but like, you got that same hype, right? Because you've been wanting to see a character like this for so long. And now all of a sudden you're like, well, you know what? We're just going to say, screw all of you. And, we're just not going to ever do this again because we just can't make up our minds because we've rewritten the script. I don't know how many goddamn times, and we've gotten rid of all the directors that were trying to do it. And then they're just like, we're done. We're just canceling the whole goddamn project. Forget everything that we've ever said or done. But it's like, like in this case, and this is where I think it's kind of funny now, is that how they've now replaced, Blade with a new Predator movie in this case. And I think it's interesting that, yes, I know that Disney owns, again, because they own Fox and they own that whole franchise, which they were a part of, they can do that. And that's fine, I guess. But now it just like, it kind of makes you fucking pissed a little bit because now you're just like, I'm not saying that you don't want to do, or you have to kind of move on to certain things and like make, adjustments wherever you need it. But why do you think that they have to do that all the time? Or like why they have to
little conspiracy theory here, but I would almost assume, because I do know that the first director of Blade really was pushing back on Disney because of a lot of like the DEI stuff that they were trying to do in the movie. He really didn't like the script and really didn't like the direction the movie was going in. And that's the reason that he initially stepped away. And I think probably a lot of the writers probably were in the same level of not really like wanting to, the material that was being made. But I think perhaps like the Predator, it's Predator Badlands, it stars Ellie Fanning. Ellie Fanning, who's The Last of Us.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
But the movie is centered around two sisters who are trying to discover their tragic past. And so Predator Badlands takes place in the future.
Okay, so everything has already been happened at this point, but yeah.
So it's kind of like a wasteland apocalypse kind of I'm assuming setting.
Yeah.
But it's centered around two female main characters.
Ready? Go figure. But go ahead.
And I'm assuming in the middle of them trying to figure out their past, there's a predator. And it's the same person who made Prey, which was on Hulu and Disney.
Yep.
Is the same person who's making Predator Badlands. So a little conspiracy theory, but I think this project was more DEI friendly for Disney to put in that place. And the people working on Blade were giving too much pushback on Disney. So it was easier to say, we're going to permanently and indefinitely delay Blade because of all the pushback we're getting. But Predator Badlands is a project that is already something that we're approving because it checks all of our boxes off.
I get that. But at the same time, I'm more like, this is where I know you and I agree that the whole DEI, like we have to push this agenda in every fucking movie that we have. The problem is that you see it with, as we just mentioned, the whole directors, the writers, the whatever. Not everyone agree. I'm not saying they have to agree, but it's like it's like you're wanting to make best friends with people, and you're trying too hard, to become their best friend. It's kind of like what Disney's doing with literally the LGBTQIA, plus whatever community, right? Like they're trying too hard. I think that's really what it is. They're really trying to push this agenda way too hard. And they need to realize, like, I'm not saying everyone has to be on board or, I'm not saying you can't have certain characteristics of certain things and make it work that way. But you need, as we have always mentioned, and we will keep continuing to mention this, is if you have the blueprints, if you have the things that are in place, and that you shouldn't be changing everything, keep the original concept of things and just, you can put certain things in there. And no offense, I don't really give a fuck if, you have a lesbian couple in there. Great. Have fun. As long as it doesn't screw up the story, or you know what I'm saying? Like if it flows, great. If it doesn't, then why do you have it in there? You know what I'm saying? Like what's the point of having stuff in there? Like
I mean, in the movie they're sisters, so I can understand. Like they're not going to be. I'm sure maybe one of them might be, but who cares? You have a predator. That's what it should be about. Like it should be about a predator. It should not be a movie where if I'm watching two sisters. More of a drama movie where a predator is just hunting them. You know what I mean? Like the predator is like a tree, and the main characters are just like walking around a forest trying to figure out what the fuck happened to their past. Like
right, or
it's just not interesting. And like I think overall with the whole Blade thing, like I think it's best that it was delayed indefinitely. Like I would rather them cancel the fucking movie than to see some shitty ass Blade movie yet be made. Altogether, like
no, I agree, because then the problem is if they made it, then they say they'll make it, and they're like, we're just going to bookshelf it, they're going to archive it and then pretend like it never happened. I agree with you. I would rather them have something that's actually good than not something that they're just going to fucking shelve for something later, like the Eternals. Just, throwing that out there. But that's like a prime example. Like who's going to actually see another Eternals movie unless they actually, get it right the second time, but we'll see.
I don't know.
I mean,
probably nobody.
So the other thing, right? I know since we're talking about movies and whatnot.
Yeah, this one has more to do with movie studios. Which,
go ahead.
It's one of those things like the whole idea of what we're talking about is that movie studios are putting together these super fan focus groups so that they can assess these major franchise projects in order to avoid, social media backlash.
So wait. So what you're saying is for example, when they made Sonic the Hedgehog, I love bringing this up because this is a very prime example. When they screwed up how the character looked and they got that
Well, that's a little bit different because they actually put that out to the world.
No,
not a focus group.
No, right. But the thing they're avoiding, right, to avoid the social media backlash. Well, that's what I mean, though, because that's what happened. They realized they screwed up, and then they had to go back and redo his entire character and do all that work that they already did. That's what I mean. Like that's a prime example of.
I think it's a little bit different than that because what they want to do is basically like they kind of did this with Rings of Power. So they created this like super fan focused group of Lord of the Rings people.
Okay.
And they kind of gave them like the material that they were working on. And they're like, look over the material, look over what we're doing.
Does it make sense?
And let us know if there's something that is going to create some kind of a backlash. So like if you're talking like, and I pick on Acolyte all the time because that was like it right now it's still it's still top on there because people are still asking for a season 2. People, it's not gonna fucking happen, okay?
Please, for the love of God, don't.
It's not gonna happen. But if Star Wars and Lucasfilm put together a focus group of Star Wars superfans,
so are you part of that group?
They could have said, "Hey, if you do this interview, you're going to have people basically like creating a social media buzz that is not going to be favorable for you." And then that's kind of where these like studios are going, okay, so let's pivot and go in this direction. And that's exactly like the problem. No, the problem is not focus groups because the idea behind focus groups is not like a new fucking concept. Like companies have been doing focus groups since the dawn of the creation of companies like Pepsi, Coke, Barbie,
I actually,
Sesame Street, like
right. I was going to say I'm not going to say it right now, but I do have an interesting story regarding Coca-Cola actually, but that'll be for a little bit later. But anyways, no, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, when it comes to focus groups, I mean, they are necessary, especially I was going to make a joke. I think you and I should go on a Marvel like super fan group. And I think we should be a part of that. So that way, maybe we could change the future of like the outcomes of what movies for them are going to be.
I don't think, I mean,
we could try, but
we'll get to the end of this like discussion, but I honestly don't think they're necessary, but it's like the like regular focus groups are not typically like super fans. They're typically just people within society that represent consumers of a product, like, or the TV show, like Children for like a kid show. Like they wouldn't have, Coke drinkers specifically, but they would choose people who like soda because brands like would want a wider range of opinions. They wouldn't choose adults to, for feedback on a children's show.
I mean, hold on, because
unless you're a parent,
right? That's what I was going to say.
They would also want your children for their reactions to the show, but that, I think content wise, they would want parents involved to like, do you think this is appropriate? Like, do you think this is a good show? Do you think it's educational? Things like that. But like, they would want to see like how the kids are reacting. Do they like it? Do they not like it? Are they bored? Are they, are they throwing things at the TV? Are they?
I will say
their nose. What are they doing?
I will say this, Matt. I mean, when you and I, as a joke, remember when we were watching Sesame Street and it was like that 70s, like what Big Bird looked like back in the day?
That shit's creepy.
I could only imagine if they had a focus group, like, oh yeah, that looks fine. I'd be like, dude, you look like you're on meth, man. Like, what were you thinking back then?
Big Bird looks like it was on meth.
He was like crack meth. I don't know what it was, but it was bad, man. And then finally he grew out of that phase.
They were all fucking smoking weed and shit back then. Like, they didn't care.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying it was that kind of shit.
Yeah, in the 70s, they didn't care. They were like, oh yeah, that looks fine. Like, that looks fine.
No, but okay, so
it's a big fucking bird. It looks fine.
He looks fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
It's a big yellow fucking bird. It's fine.
It's fine. Anyways, no, I mean, I think I can understand why you think that the superfan like groups can, kind of feel not as important as they should be. I mean, I think, in general, I think honestly, especially like a major brand or a franchise or whatever, I think they do need some kind of group, or at least kind of like a fan base or something, like something they could just like talk to and be like, listen, like here's our idea. Let's talk about it real quick. Now, Disney should really fucking get on board with this idea, only because they need to listen to certain people. But what I'm saying is like, I think like brands like Coke, let's say a children's show like Sesame Street, or, I don't know, maybe Marvel one day if they ever do it, they need that because they know that, people will watch, for certain things, but like, if they don't, really understand where they're coming from, or the consumers itself of watching said entertainment or, drinking or whatever the hell it is, you kind of need that input, because if you're just an executive and you're making all these decisions, I mean, great, you can make them all fucking day long, and we'll see how long that's going to last, because you need some sort of opinion.
I mean, I think it's different, but if you take this, for example, like if you imagine like Coca-Cola creating a focus group to, basically review new and upcoming products for any of their brands. Like they have many different brands other than just like Coke and Sprite. Like they have Powerade, Vitamin Water, like they have a bunch of other brands. Like, but the people they choose are people who only drink like the Coca-Cola brand. Right?
Well, how would you know?
Because they would ask them before they started the focus group.
But then I would say a majority of people would lie.
Well, then they wouldn't choose them. But that's the whole point of a focus group.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't know. That's the problem. I could make up bullshit and be like, yeah, you know what? I only drink Coke products, and then
you're a fucking asshole if you're going to lie in a focus group.
Well, I'm just telling you.
What I mean? Like if you're going to a focus group, you're going to be like, do you drink only Coke products? Yes or no? Yes. Then we don't want you in a focus group. Like, but if they choose people who are only Coca-Cola drinkers or Coca-Cola product drinkers,
right?
It wouldn't be a diverse enough group because they all clearly like the brand already.
Right. You need to have
the feedback would be too biased to be considered reliable data.
Right. That's why I'm saying you need everyone.
And that's why these like superfan groups is basically saying the same thing. Like if you have Marvel creating a focus group on basically to review like a new and upcoming movie or franchise for the MCU, but the people they choose are only Marvel fans. You see where I'm getting at?
Well, no.
It's not a diverse enough group to.
I understand, and this is where I want to say this. When you talk about a fan, okay, especially like let's say Marvel or something like that, right? And you and I have agreed on this. It doesn't. A fan can be anybody. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, and it also just keep in mind, it's not literally us. It's not some white dude. It's not just. I'm not saying it's a white dude, but if you only choose people who are, Marvel fans or Star Wars fans, they could be an LGBTQIA. They could be, whatever the fuck it is.
And that's not what I'm saying. You can be a fucking gay Marvel fan,
but that's what I'm just.
But what I'm saying is, if you like DC and they go, no, we're only looking at Marvel right now.
Okay. Yes.
Then as a DC fan, you might as well go fuck yourself because they don't want you. But as a DC fan, I can't give you feedback on your product.
No, I get what you're saying. Yes, you're saying that.
That's what I'm saying. Like
I get that part, and that's what I'm saying.
As a super fan of a movie, like, you know, a Disney fan. Let's say like Disney is doing a focus group. They only want Disney super fans. If you're not a Disney super fan, go fuck yourself because we don't want you.
You might as well go hang out on Netflix and Paramount. So,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the focus groups like discourage creative originality. Like, they're going to. There's a dangerous thing in like dictating direction of projects and catering to like whims of society by saying like, nope, that's too racist. No, people won't like that. That's too sexist. Well, the LGBT community won't like that because you're misgendering this character. It's not great.
Here's the problem, and you and I both know this, okay? When you take a look at our society right now versus, fuck it, I'll even say 25, 30 years ago, do you think half the shit that we deal with now was really a problem back then? For the most part, or at least, I mean, it's not something that they didn't, always talk about, but it wasn't actually.
I think it was. It just wasn't out.
It wasn't out at the forefront, right? It wasn't like literally talked about.
It wasn't something that people talked about. But here's the thing, and I almost want to say we fucking say this every episode.
We probably do.
I think we literally just said it the last episode.
Talk about blueprints.
Yes.
I told you we needed to have a quote for this, but go ahead.
It's the truth though, because like studios don't need fucking super fan focus groups. What they need to do is like stay true to the story and blueprints already laid out, whether it's like it comes from a video game or a comic book or a novel, and just not changing shit to appeal to these new audiences or making it socially acceptable. But like more importantly, like they need to hire people who are actually knowledgeable about the source material and not necessarily just like, we're making a Star Wars movie. Let's hire Star Wars fans. No. Hire somebody who's knowledgeable about the material or is an actually good writer. Like
that actually has what? Imagination?
Somebody who can be impartial, has an imagination, and can tell great stories. Like, if they know anything about Star Wars or they know anything about Marvel, like, the big part of it is like, here's the blueprint. This is what we want. And you go, okay.
Now what do I do with it?
It's like when you have a cook in a restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, we have our award-winning meatloaf recipe. Here it is. Oh, okay. Like, their job is to make said meatloaf
the exact same way
as the recipe.
And every time.
And what's happening now with movie studios would be like that chef going, fuck this recipe.
I'm going to make it my own.
This thing is a pile of shit. I don't even know what the fuck this ingredient is, but it doesn't belong in meatloaf. I'm going to make it myself. And they're making this meatloaf, and then the restaurant's going, what is this pile of shit meat that you just made?
No.
And that's what all the fans are basically doing. And that's why these studios are like, hey, we need super fans of meatloaf to say whether or not this meatloaf is socially acceptable for our restaurant. So, no, you don't need fucking people to say, hey, this is great meatloaf or this is shitty meatloaf. You just need people to make good fucking meatloaf.
Hey, don't be talking about Meatloaf the fucking guy, asshole, because he was a good singer. That's all I'm going to say. But no.
But you know where I'm getting.
I do.
You know where I'm getting at.
I do understand. I mean? And the problem is, Matt, is you're right. I'm not saying that, you're right. They just need no matter what, they just need
Studios
regular
already
fans.
use focus groups though, and that's the thing. Like
They-
when they make a movie and they're about to do these projects, they already do focus groups.
I think
They already do like these. Like they'll have a preliminary, like, you know, maybe it's a scene from a movie that they're doing, but they will record a singular scene and they will view it to a focus group of people. These might be producers, they might be directors, they might be Disney executives.
I think, and that's the other biased opinion too, is that you're also talking about people within that group of individuals. Right. So that's the hard part. What you really need to do as a focus group, okay, a regular focus group, not a super fan focus group, not any of this other bullshit, is you just need blind data. Like you just need random ass fucking people. I'm talking random. And you they could be fans. They don't need to be fans. They could be whatever. They can come from all walks of life. Just random. They just say, hey, we're going to pick 50 people. Let's go.
Yeah, I think it creates a dangerous precedent. Like, when you have just, especially like when you look at Star Wars fans who can be so diverse, and I'm not saying like all Star Wars fans are good or they're bad or they're negative or whatever, but you do have a lot of Star Wars fans that are like really, really negative. And you know, some are literally just reporting news. Like they're literally just reporting the stuff that's coming out of Disney verbatim. And you have people that are literally sending them messages or making videos commenting on how they should be hung and lynched and somebody should kill their families. And it's like awful shit.
Of course, it's awful shit. The problem
You know,
is,
and
you
it's
got
like-
assholes and stupid ass people who just think they know everything, and they're just going to make stupid shit up because that's what they feel like doing.
But that's exactly what we're going to be doing with these fucking super fan focus groups, is because being in, you know, obviously being in geek culture, we know that geeks have pretty strong fucking personalities when it comes to geeky shit.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you put a group of like 10 or more Star Wars fans together, they are not going to agree all on the same shit.
oh yeah, because oh wait, Matt and I did an episode with my brother and my father about that too, and we had a lovely discussion on that one.
They're
but
not
no.
going to agree on the same shit, and it's going to be like, no, you can't do that. Well, why not? Well, it could be good. Yeah, it's going to be like just a shit show in general, and then
Yeah.
what you're going to have is like a lot of what we've already seen, and there's not going to be any originality.
Well, and so this is where I understand. That's why I'm saying if you do a random ass group of people, like I'm from all different walks of life, doesn't have to be fans or not, whatever, and you take a blind data and you say, hey, this is what it is, and you go after it and you say, okay, well, these people like this scene for what it was. These people didn't because of whatever reason. Okay, these people didn't, you know, they didn't mind it, but maybe you could tweak it a bit. You know, like something like that where you can be like, okay, now you don't know if they're fans or not. And now you don't know any of this. You're looking at data and you're saying, okay, is this worth my time? Is it like saying, yes, this should be staying, or is it not? Like, those are the kinds of things that these honestly companies should be looking at, because at the same time, you're right. If you're going to have a biased opinion, if you're going to just grab a group of people who basically all agree on the same fucking shit, and they only want those particular people, well, no shit. You're only going to get whatever the fuck they're saying to you, which could be, in this case, a bunch of bullshit, which then turns out if you then, let's say, do an advertisement or you do certain things or trailers or whatever, and then they wonder why about the social media backlash, because they're not listening. They're just doing it because these guys and gals or whoever are telling them that this is great. And now you're looking at the broader picture and you're like, well, what the fuck? What is this pile of shit that I just got? What is this fucking meatloaf that I just got on my plate? What happened to the fucking, picture that I had, when I saw on the menu? not this pile of dog shit on my
what
plate.
happened to that fucking meatloaf I had 3 weeks ago from here? Like this,
Like, what the fuck is this shit? Like,
this is like a pile of shit meat. This is like the mystery meat I got in high school.
no, actually, I was going to say this is actually. Oh, don't even get me started. I've had some pretty shitty meals. All I can say, I had a meatloaf dish. Real quick, let's just say before I left to go on my deployment, they called it porcupine balls. Okay, it sounds really gross. Okay, and it kind of was. It's basically if you took meatloaf and you decide to make it in a ball form, and then what you do is you put rice in it. Okay. And let's put it this way. On the outside, it looked cooked. But let's just say on the inside, after having a bite, and you're like, oh, this is completely raw. And I'm just eating raw ass meat. And I'm like, that would be the same concept if I was looking at this meatloaf and be like, what the fuck is this? Why am I having basically raw meat on my plate?
I mean, it could be beef or it could be cat because they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
They're eating, wow, you went there. I was like, wow, they're really going to fucking do that right now. No, and like I said, man, I agree. I just know that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like the whole blueprint thing and, staying true to the story, like I think people in these studios like Disney and Paramount and, all of the studios they need to just stop.
Yeah.
Focusing on what fucking society wants. They need to stop fucking focusing on what fans want. They need to just focus on the material that they're making and just make original content and the story and work with the blueprints that they already have. If they just do that, people will like what they're doing. Like it's inevitable that people will like what they're doing. It's the shit that they're doing now because they're trying to appeal to new audiences. They're trying to make shit appealing socially, and that's the shit that's not working.
Right. And so they need to end that shit and create a new trend, which will hopefully be get rid of the fucking superfan groups and all this other bullshit and just go with blind data. Go with people that literally don't know anything about it or
just
whatever.
Make a good fucking story. Like
or that too, or just go back to the original idea.
Be that hard. Like The Last of Us, that TV show was great. Why was it great?
It was probably one of the best TV shows, I'm not saying of all time, but it was definitely up there when it came to at least portrayals. And
it actually followed the game.
Exactly. And even if you didn't play the game,
I mean, did it deviate? Sure, it deviated, but
it was true for most of what they were doing, and that was the beauty of it. Now, real quick, before we, kind of dive into our kind of last topic, the one thing I wanted to tell you is I saw this video about Coca-Cola real quick, since I know we're talking about, certain things and how, brands can really manipulate certain things. So I found out that Coca-Cola, back in the day when they were, starting, which was, I don't know, it was like 1870s or something like that. So down the road, they were trying to get more people to consume Coke, right? Now, we all know that there's a story, which actually is true, about how Coke, decided to put cocaine inside of it and all that stuff. So they realized they had to change the name because at first I would think it was like Coca whatever or cocaine cola. I don't know how they did it, but I think it was something weird. But then they were like, okay, well, we can still use Coca, right? And then have the cola to this. The interesting part of this is because they wanted to, of course, change the name and they wanted to get more people to drink it, they decided that they noticed that certain months of the year during the wintertime that people really weren't drinking Coke. Okay? So this is where it gets interesting. What they decide to do is they decide, because the whole, like Kris Kringle, right? With Santa Claus and everything else. So they decided that, and like St. Nicholas and whatnot. So what Coca-Cola did, which I had no idea for many, many years, they decided to create Santa Claus. And like the old, like posters and ads that you see like with Coca-Cola and whatnot with like Saint Nick, like having a bag and he holds a Coke in his hand?
Yep.
Guess what? They used him, and for some reason, because they did this, and they did like the polar bear with the Coke thing, they changed. Like that's Coca-Cola kind of created Christmas because of that little thing of like, okay, well, how do we get people to drink this? So they go to the church and they like manipulate, the story of like Saint Nick and whatnot, and like make it so like it's a holiday. They basically create Christmas for what it is, and they make it magical. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to change all this. So they're changing religion. They're changing holidays. They're changing a lot of stuff just so that way they could literally make more people drink Coca-Cola just by, doing different things, like making people believe like, yes, you know what? Coca-Cola should be a year-long, drink that you should have no matter if it's hot outside or if it's cold inside or like outside or whatever. And I'm sitting there like, so you're telling me that Coca-Cola, one company, changed religion, changed the way we view on like holiday, like this particular holiday and so on and so forth. They created this from a false image because they wanted to make more people drink their product. I was very surprised to the point where I was like, how the hell did you manipulate all of this shit just because you wanted to make sure that people were drinking your stuff? That's mind-boggling to me how one company said, fuck it, we're going to make sure that everyone drinks this because Christmas is a time of gathering and celebrating and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is fucking insane. I'm like, I've never would have thought that a company would literally change religion in any way, shape, or form, or even make it so that they could basically sell their product. And it's pretty sad that they did all that and nobody said a word to them.
So yeah, just an interesting little factoid here on that fact. When launched, Coca-Cola's two ingredients were cocaine and caffeine. So cocaine was derived from the coca leaf and caffeine from the cola nut. Which
the cola nut?
It leads to the name Coca-Cola for cocaine and the cola nut.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So they took the names of both and put it in the drink. Like that's why I was saying, like this is real things.
Yeah, the guy that created it, his last name is Pemberton, but he called for 5 ounces of the coca leaf per gallon of syrup. So Coca-Cola once contained an estimated 9 milligrams of cocaine per glass.
Damn.
So for comparison, a typical dose or line of cocaine is 50 to 75 milligrams.
Great.
So a typical just glass, and we're talking probably, if you're talking a glass, that's probably like 8 ounces.
Yeah, give or take.
So, I mean, you're talking 8, 16,
You're having a lot in that one drink.
9,
alone.
18, so if you have more than one, 2 or 3 glasses of Coca-Cola, you're
feeling great, man.
It's like doing a line of Coke.
And you're sitting there like, this feels great, man. And then, you wonder why probably heart attacks went through the roof at that point in time. But
it was after 1904. Instead of using fresh leaves, they started using spent leaves, which the leftovers were basically they extracted the cocaine, which only gave trace amounts. And then by 1929, they used a cocaine-free coca leaf extract.
Oh, did they now? Yeah. By 1929.
1929.
So you're telling me almost, because we're now in 24, so wait 5 more years, then it would be official that it would hit 100 years that we wouldn't have had cocaine in our system. That's great. I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad that they finally realized that.
And not for nothing, but they back then in like the 1920s, 1915s, whatever, they used to use the Coca-Cola trucks for dope runs.
Oh, did they now? See, it sounds like this is why I'm saying about Coca-Cola, man. I mean, everyone thinks like whatever, but I'm telling you, changing religion, dope fucking runs, all this other stupid shit. I'm just telling you, man. It's
a weird fucking thing, man. I'm telling you.
It's not even that. It's just Coca-Cola, man. You want to talk about a monopoly in disguise?
What a time to live in.
I'm just saying, Coca-Cola.
And, in the 1800s, drinking Coke, doing
all kinds of weird shit. You know? Hey, at least it's not opium, right?
You could rob a fucking bank and get away with it. You could do fucking whatever you wanted.
Hey, it's the Wild Wild West, man.
We're living in the wrong time.
Clearly, Matt. Well, the thing is, we wouldn't have this podcast, so we were living in that time. But yes, this next one, I know you found out, but then I found it very interesting how Marvel and DC somehow basically tag teamed this, and they actually trademarked a certain word, which we all know is superhero.
Two words, actually.
Okay, sorry. 2 words together, but yes, superhero.
So Marvel, I think actually Marvel held it, but they shared it with DC. So it was like, again, Marvel and DC held the trademark for the word superhero. So if you know anything about trademarks, it would be like superhero as 2 words, superhero as 1 word, like any way that you can spell it, put it together. It doesn't matter. Like they own the trademark. They shared the ownership. And what's unusual about this is like, we have a trademark for the state of New Hampshire,
right?
For Geeks of the Multiverse and our logo.
Now, right. I mean, we could technically,
which, it's not John and I that have the trademark. It's me. It's under my name.
Well, yes.
So
technically,
I can't have myself and John. It has to be one owner.
Correct.
So for Marvel and DC to be competitors within the same market and the trademark to be owned by both of them is kind of like one of those things that's, huh?
How does that work? Or do they like lend it out? You know what I mean? Like
did they give permission? Like who actually, I want to say Marvel maybe owned it and gave permission for DC, but did they give them ownership too? Like was it just an even thing? Like,
yeah, I mean,
I have no idea.
I just, the fact of the matter is that how do you own a very common phrase or like words? I would say common words, right? Because like it's even with common phrases, like,
they also have one for superhuman, I learned.
Oh, interesting. So that's the problem, right? So like how do you own things that are, basically very generic words or phrases or stuff like that where you can't, it's too common. Like, you have to be very unique about whatever that is, right? I mean, if, like for example, like this is kind of random, but like, Big Bang Theory, like bazinga, like they could trademark that word bazinga, because that was what Sheldon said on the show. But like,
that's a very specific word. But right.
Like, you see what that's the difference between that and like, let's say,
I don't know where this grocery store was, but there was a grocery store that wanted to, they had applied to use the term superhero for a particular sale they were doing, which they called superhero savings. And after fighting for so long, they ultimately just kind of withdrew their application because Marvel and DC kept just withdrawing and kept denying the application. So it was like, well, why keep fighting this thing? Like they just keep denying it anyway. So they probably, I'm assuming they just kind of named it something else.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing where I'm confused on, like I said, how do you own a very common word or phrase or something like that where, you're telling me that nobody on the planet Earth at all could ever use it because you guys own something that is so common that technically, I guess, but that's the thing. So like any social media or anything that was published or, anything that you basically put on the internet or you do like in person or whatever. Like, and if you can't, because you can't use it because now they own that word, whatever that is, right? And so it's dumb because it's like, if we decided like now it doesn't matter, but like at the time, like if we said, hey, we're going to talk about some superhero shit and we posted this and then talked about superhero as a title.
Yeah. I mean, if we created a shirt that was like, I'm a superhero,
then technically I guess we're wrong because
then
we're fucked.
We would, Marvel would have the right to sue us.
Right, because we use the word superhero.
We would be violating like their trademark.
Which is dumb because then there's multiple companies they could have sued. I would say there could be vendors, there could be a whole slew of things that I could already see that they would have
if they have used it, perhaps they had permit. I don't know, but
you see what I mean?
It is important to know that the permission is limited to the expression superhero, and it doesn't like extend to any of like the DC or Marvel characters or like stories or settings. Like those are what's protected by copyright and not trademark. So it's the expression of superhero. So like you're saying like, Superman is our superhero. Like that's an expression. That's not copyright. That's a trademark.
Right.
If you're saying like, Superman is part of the superhero league. The superhero league could be part of, DC or Marvel as an actual faction.
Right.
And that could be part of copyright because that could be part of like a story or, a set of characters like Justice League or, whatever.
Yes, trademark. So like, yes. So like, for example, like our logo is a trademark. Because that is, granted, if somebody used our logo, I'd be like, excuse me, you go find yourself a new logo. But I'd be like, or you better ask us to be like, hey, can we use
it? Ours is very particular of Geeks From The Multiverse. Right. Like, it's not like the word superhero. Like,
no, it's not, hey, superhero, or something stupid. Yeah. No. But like either that or like, because like I know with copyright. So like, I always think of copyright as more like when you think of songs. And you think of like, word and verbiage of like movies and stuff like that. That's where you have to be careful if you use certain scenes. Like, I always think of that movie, Matt, we've been watching lately, together when they do the parody stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Himmler. Sorry. That's different movie we're not going to talk about. But it's just, it's that kind of stuff that, when you start to look at how, it's surprising how these big companies can, I guess, basically get away with a lot of shit. But then it's funny how a judge, right, in the story behind this, said, "No, you are not allowed to trademark that word." And they right. lost the battle because I know this was going on for years. But then they finally said, "No, you are not going to do this because it is a very common word, and you cannot trademark that." Because that's not fair to everybody else and basically the rest of us, So I did find it interesting that basically the legal system actually won, in that case, and not them.
So basically, before Marvel and DC could, or what they were doing is because they had the trademark, they could prohibit the use of superhero from being used in any way. Like so. In the examples that are kind of written here, like if you wanted to use superhero in the middle of a song, or you wanted to use, superhero in, your advertising or a product label, or you wanted to name a product, superhero vacuum bags, you couldn't do that. And so basically what the judgment came is that now they can't prohibit the use of superhero being used. So if you use it in the middle of a song, I don't know any of these examples here, but Chainsmokers and Coldplay's Something Like This. I guess superhero is used in the middle of the song.
I know both the bands clearly, but I don't remember that song.
I don't know the song off the top of my head, but products or publications coming from DC could use superhero in its label or name, but the restriction has been lifted. So, if you have a store like this guy's, grocery store, now he can do superhero savings for a sale and not having to worry about getting sued.
Right. I mean, and now we could put it on a t-shirt and, if that's what we decided to do. I mean, personally, I think they should just get rid of the trademark, or I think they should just ban the trademark from them and then just honestly tell them you cannot do that. Because then you know what I mean? Because nobody can coin.
It almost makes me wonder, if they had superhero, and I already know that because I saw another article that said they also have superhuman. But I also wonder what other words that they have trademarked.
It has something to do with super. I can tell you that. So whatever super, whatever.
But it's like whatever basic words do they have?
So metahumans.
That's trademarked.
Right. Would metahumans be one, or would it be
metahumans? Mutants? Nobody says. Maybe, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
It just makes me wonder, what other words that they have. And I'm saying basic words that are, I think superhero. If you look, typed in superhero and you saw a little GIF of a guy in a that looked like Superman, but it was yellow with a yellow cape, you'll go, oh yeah, hey, that's a superhero. No, you can't use that. That's Marvel's. Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. What is this shit you're talking about?
Go fuck yourself.
It's a common word.
That thing right there is a superhero. It's a fucking suit. How you can't explain it in any other way. It's a superhero. It's a hero that's super. I don't know.
You're my hero.
How else do you explain it? I don't know. It's a hero that's very super.
Is that better? A hero that's super?
Yeah.
A hero of the super? Or the super of the hero? See, you got to use that. The super of the hero. No, I agree, Matt. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of for example, I know this is just a kind of a random one, but the whole Mickey Mouse thing, right? When they're talking about the character, right? Being able to use the Steamboat Willie, in that version of him. Because after that so long, that trademark that they had on him, and now they lost the right, and everyone now could do, Steamboat Willie because, whatever. I just think of that as yeah, you have a brand, you have a thing that you're doing, but at the same time, it's not going to last forever. I mean, unless you keep up with it, whatever. But when you have an image. Yeah, of course you don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose those things that you have that are associated with your brand. But when you have simple, again, what we talked about, words, phrases, something that basically you probably use, not saying all the time, but at least, enough to make it as common. It's not like a rare thing. It's not an unusual or, whatever. It would be different if it was something that is very not common used all the time, then you could trademark that, sure, absolutely. But if it's something so simple and so literally said, the word literally, what if we decided, hey, you know what, we're gonna copyright that or trademark that shit, right? Or or just the filler words, we could just trademark that shit. It'd be the same thing, and I'd be well, sorry, you can't say literally unless you want to get my permission to say literally. I mean, granted, we've been making a lot of money because a lot of people say literally all the time, but I'm just saying it'd be something like that, right? Because you'd want to choose something that's so simple and something that is so commonly said. And that's where I agree that, yes, I'm glad that the legal system was no, you are not going to do that and blah, blah, blah. But that's where look at these brands and do that.
It's great that they actually looked at that and they were no, we're going to cancel your trademark because you can't trademark a basic phrase. It's stupid. You can't.
No, that's why I've been saying this whole time. You cannot do that because you're basically limiting everyone else. And that on top of that, why are you doing it in the first place? Like, there's no reason for it. Like we all know that you have superheroes, but you don't need to they basically keep the goddamn word from everybody else from using it ever.
But I think what's crazy is they've had this for decades.
Right. And nobody said anything about it. That's the weird part. Until recently when they decided to do this. That's the part I'm like, Jesus, like you're talking decades of shit. And now you want to, and now all of a sudden now you're done with it. Like, no, like,
you know what I think is crazy too? I think like when you look at not just like Marvel and DC and like, those franchises, but you look at, like the NFL.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure they have, and I'm going to say it as two words. Super Bowl. You can't say it. So when you see commercials, you'll see commercials that like will have like the big game. Get your chips for the big game, or get your, they won't say Super Bowl because they can't.
Because the NFL,
like radio stations will say like, the big game, or they'll allude to it.
Well, that must be not only with the NFL, but like you're talking, let's say baseball or basketball, or you're talking about like, so for example, like if they trademark the word "the finals" in basketball, well, there you go. Or again, Stanley Cup, right? The Stanley Cup Finals, or baseball, the World Series, right? So are they trademarking those words too in those sports? That's the kind of things that I'm wondering.
It's just, but it's just one of those things. Like it's just weird. Like you trademark something like Super Bowl, but then you allow no one to fucking use it.
Right.
So you have the biggest, arguably the biggest game, the biggest spectacle of sports. That's usually the Super Bowl.
Yep. They have a
like the World Series, I would say, is right up there too. But I couldn't tell you what the fucking basketball one is called. I couldn't tell you that because not that I watch basketball, but
NBA Finals. But they call it the finals.
But it's not interesting. Like you have the World Series.
I understand, man.
I don't know if they've trademarked World Series, but
right. But then you have again the Stanley Cup, or really the.
Well, that's what the stupid trophy is.
Well, called. No, but it's called the. I thought it was. I don't know exactly the name that they have. I thought it was just like. It's not the finals. I don't know what it is. I can't remember. But the point is,
my point. Like you have the Super Bowl, which is like their biggest game of the year. But yet, like you have advertisers that are radio stations and stuff like that want to advertise your game for people to watch, and you have to have them say like, "Hey, check out the big game." Well, which one?
You mean the Chiefs that are going to lose in the Ravens? No. That big game.
I said it before. I hope all their legs fall off.
Well, man, I'm not going to go there right now. That's on you. But no, I think at the end of the day, especially with this, we all know that when it comes to trademarking, copywriting, all this other crap, right? If you have a unique, rare, I don't know, basically phrase or words that basically nobody would probably typically use all the time.
It's not a basic phrase.
Right. It's not something that you could, like, again, if I said, you know what, fuck it, we're going to trademark it literally, and nobody could use that word. Do you realize how many people would be screwed? Especially if they're talking like speeches wise, they'd be like, they wouldn't, they don't know what to say.
As much as I would love to trademark what the fuck,
or
I can't.
No, hold on, no. What we really want to do is GFY. That's the one I would rather do.
I can't do it. But you know what? I probably could.
What?
And this is mine.
Okay, yours.
Because I don't know anybody else that says it.
Okay, go ahead.
Idiot delight.
Idiot delight.
I don't know anybody who says it, but that is my favorite insult of all time.
Wow. You know what's funny? Now I'm thinking about it. I don't think I was given the pleasure of ever having be called that from you. Now I'm thinking about it. I guess I'm not a true friend if I haven't been called an idiot delight, apparently. He's like, idiot
Wow.
delight.
There's a lot of idiot delights that I've seen in my day.
Oh, so you're talking like real dumbasses.
Oh yeah, no, they're
like
dumb.
real dumbasses. We're not talking about regular, but we're talking real.
Idiot delights are, I think, one step beyond dumbass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably more like 10 steps beyond dumbass.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking like, again, the real OG dumbass, like, really gets into it.
They're idiot delights. Yeah.
Again, that's why I had to ask. Okay.
But that would be something it's not like a common phrase. Like, no, I don't, like I said, I haven't heard anybody say it, but that would be something
honestly, it was one of the first times I ever heard it. So yeah.
But that would be something like if I put it on a shirt, I could trademark that because it's not a common phrase. Now, dumbass.
That's a common phrase.
That's a common phrase that they would never allow me to have, or go fuck yourself, or any of those. Like they're common phrases. It wouldn't pass like that. But
now
we're talking decades they've had this. So somebody at the patent office either was paid,
probably under the table, but yeah,
or they were an idiot delight and they were like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Stamp.
Stamp. Let's do it. No, and I mean, so this is where, when people, so this is why I'm going to ask then. So like if you had, let's say, like I always wanted to, I know Matt and I joked about this, but if we ever made a production company, we were trying to see if we could ever do GFY Productions. Even if we did like the GFY thing, right? Even though, let's say if we had GFY Productions, could I technically trademark the GFY thing, even though it's, part of the company, it's the name of the company per se, even though it could be considered a common phrase in some ways, if people understand it. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'd be wondering.
If you had a logo, possibly, but
okay, but so the name, no, but the logo, sure.
You couldn't just trademark the GFY part of it because it's a common phrase.
Well, that's what. Yeah, right.
But you would have to make sure that it was,
right, the logo,
the GFY attached. Productions or GFY Studios, or you would have to have that word that's unique in there that changes it from just being, a common insult to
something else. Right. No, that's what I figured, but I just, I was just thinking about it like, do you have to do certain things, or do you have to make it so that it's not, as common as it really is, in most cases. But all right. I think we've definitely talked about some stuff here, guys. We've hopefully, I think moving forward, especially in the month of November, we just want to hear you guys' opinions on certain things. I mean, we actually forgot to mention this again. So I know last time we talked about some of the topic ideas and whatnot. So like next week, we're going to make sure that, we get those ideas, getting going. So like, again, with the whole robot, on robot and geek culture, The Walking Dead, help me out, man. What was the last one there? Ghostbusters. Yes. So
the problem is we recorded this one right after we recorded last week's episode. So we recorded these back to back. So we don't know how many more votes we got.
No, I know. No, what I'm saying is...
So we're forecasting, yes, we are going to look, and hopefully you guys have voted, and we're going to choose whoever the winner of that, whatever the winner of that poll was.
Yes, and whoever that is, yes, we'll be talking about it next
week's episode.
Yes. And anyways, guys, I know
if it's still a 50-50 between the two of them, then we'll choose one of them.
And like I said, maybe we'll talk about one the following week or whatever. We'll figure it out. But again, until next time, boys and girls,
stay geeky.